Hey my good friends, Sam Haymart with Test Driven TV. Today we're test driving the 2024 Toyota Crown, the top of the line for the Toyota sedan lineup. And this is the top of the line Platinum. So it's got all the bells and whistles. So we're gonna have a good look at it inside now. We're gonna take it for a drive and then I'm gonna tell you what I really think. All right, my dear friends, before we get out on the test drive, I always like to have a bit of a walk around and show you what we've got here. As I mentioned at the outset, this is a fully loaded top of the line Crown Platinum all-wheel drive. It has the HybridMAX drivetrain and all the bells and whistles. The first option that really makes this car pop is the optional paint called Heavy Metal. It is sort of a between silver and charcoal color that's got a nice pearlescent glow to it, and it does cost a little bit extra. But what is the Crown? Well, if you had a Toyota Avalon and you like the traditional size and feel of, well, almost an American car that doesn't exist anymore, the Crown replaces the Avalon here in the United States. It's about the same footprint, but the big difference, it's taller. This adopts a little bit more of a height from a crossover SUV, which is going to appeal to people that like the higher seating position, the more substantial feel, but they still maybe want more of a car than a wagon. And even though it is called a sedan, if you look at it in silhouette, it does have more of a fastback, sort of a touring roofline at the back, even though it does have a traditional trunk. Right up front with the styling, a lot of gloss black plastic on the Crown, and you can see a big grille and sharp headlight design that really fits in with the Toyota lineup, the new Prius, the new Camry, and so forth. This has the upgraded quad LED headlamps. It has a really distinctive daytime running light signature LED line, and it's just something that pops from across the parking lot, though it doesn't necessarily say traditional Crown luxury. It says modern Toyota when it comes to styling ethos. Coming around the corner, this does have a lot of pop with these wheels, 21-inch wheels, and even though I'm not a black wheel person, I kind of like the looks of these, black with a machine face. And looking at the wheel arches, because this car does floor-to-lean crossover, it has black wheel arches and lower cladding, but they did dress it up a little bit down here in the doors with the gloss black. Coming around to the rear three-quarter view, it is a fast roofline, not necessarily a formal sedan roofline. And though it does look like it might have a hatch, it does have a traditional trunk. And I do like the way that that rear window drags back into the roofline and gives it a real sense of length, which it needs because it is so tall. LED taillights at the rear, and looking at the rear profile, you can see that it is very tall. And down in the lower bumper, we don't have big exhaust tips there design-wise, because this is an all-hybrid lineup across the board. They are definitely going for more of a hybrid eco ethos. Up on top, this has the panoramic fixed glass roof. It is a full panel of glass at the top. Does give a lot of light to the interior, but it doesn't open. One last thing before we get out on a test drive and really see what this is about is this has the upgraded HybridMAX powertrain under the hood, a step up from the Limited we tested last summer, which had the standard hybrid powertrain. Two different powertrains available in the Crown. This is horsepower and efficiency all in one. It combines a 2.4-liter turbocharged four-cylinder engine with a traditional 6-speed automatic transmission. In between the two, sandwiched in there, is an electric motor. Now this has all-wheel drive because it also has an electric motor at the rear axle, very similar to what Toyota does on a lot of their other hybrids. The big news is this has got a horsepower, 340 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque. It's got the power to really give you some punch, really give you some fun out on the highway, yet it still has the MPG that we expect in a hybrid. This is rated at 29 city, 32 highway, and 30 MPG combined. All right, my friends, let's go for that drive. And the first question I always like to ask is, how does it go? So we're out here in the middle of nowhere, and we're gonna see how it goes. And go. Woo! Nice sound, feel that shift, and 60. Nice power, and it keeps delivering too, 80 and more. So this has got some good power for a hybrid. It's got good power for even just a regular gas sedan. And this 4-cylinder turbo engine has a pretty level of refinement. It's not harsh, it's not thrashy, and it's got pretty immediate power delivery. You mash the pedal and off it goes. And we've got paddle shifters too. And that's because why? Well, this has a real transmission, unlike a lot of hybrids out there. That's one of the big benefits of this new HybridMAX powertrain from Toyota, is that it has the hybrid efficiency, it's got extra power, but it has a traditional driving feel. You have a traditional automatic transmission, so you can use paddle shifters, and they work well. And so if you're a driver in the family, you might really appreciate the extra money spent to get into this powertrain. It's got a good level of refinement, it works well, the transmission, everything feels very traditional. You just simply would not know that this is a hybrid. The one area that you will know is efficiency, obviously. Now, it's not nearly as efficient as the standard hybrid powertrain in this car. In fact, it's about 10 mpg less across the board. And unfortunately, I don't have a number to give you in my own experience with this car, because it literally has 99 miles on it as I'm sitting here talking. It's not only in its break-in period, but it hasn't had enough driving in my time with it for it to really generate any kind of real-world MPG numbers for us to talk about. So 30 MPG combined, and you know, we have to sort of take their word for it. So it does have auto start stop in the sense that it is a hybrid, but this is so well done, you hardly know when it's happening. It's very seamless. It doesn't have a lot of the start-stop jerky abruptness that some of the traditional hybrid powertrain formats have. And so again, one of the benefits of this powertrain is that it's very traditional in its feel overall. So I'm really happy with it, quite honestly. It just makes this car feel a little bit more like the car that most people are used to driving if they have wanted a hybrid in the way of efficiency, but they just haven't gotten their head around the way they drive. And I have, most people have, but not everybody has, especially in the buyer demographic that wants a car like this. Not everybody's bought in to the latest, greatest technology. Here you have your cake, and you get to eat it too. This powertrain gets 5 out of 5 stars. When it comes to the ride, drive, and handling experience, this is based on the TNGA platform architecture that underpins most all modern Toyota vehicles right now, cars and SUVs mostly. And that means it's elevated above what we had, say, 10 years ago from the brand. It's got more feel, it's got more spunk, it has more refinement. And stepping up to the Platinum here gives us the adaptive variable suspension, which means the dampers, the shocks, are adjustable. They're tied to the drive modes, which have quite a big range of adjustment, from comfort all the way up through Sport and Sport Plus. And what that means is you can adjust how the ride feels, how the steering feels. And so on comfort, it's got a nice floaty ride. If you set it up to Sport and Sport Plus, you can drive out here on a nice windy back road and have a bit of a stiffer, sharper driving feel, which is good because customers for this car more than likely are going to like the cushy, a little bit of a float comfort, but not everybody. Some people want to dial it up, especially if they get to a nice road like this. So it's nice having that option, and that is one of the benefits of going all the way up here to the Platinum trim grade. And it works pretty well. There is quite a bit of difference in how it feels from down on comfort all the way up to Sport and Sport Plus. The brakes, four-wheel disc brakes, of course, they work pretty good, although they're not the biggest for a vehicle of this weight class. It's a pretty heavy car, but they work pretty well. We don't have so much horsepower that we need high performance brakes on this car. Out on the highway at speed, it has a nice, quiet and composed ride. On our 70-mile-an-hour road test, this clocked in at 55.9 decibels, which is on the lower side of average. So it is a cruiser. It has that nice quiet ride. It's pretty well hushed, acoustic glass, lots of sound deadening. If this is going to be a road trip car for you, you're going to be able to hold conversations with your passengers without having to raise your voice. And that is notable because with these large tires and wheels, they tend to be noisier tires and wheels when you get up into big, huge rollers like this, and that's tamped down pretty well. As I mentioned, out here on a straight stretch of highway at speed, there is a little bit of float. Right now I do have it set on normal. If I were to come down here and dial it up to sport, I can feel that change immediately in the ride profile. The steering suddenly gets heavier. If I put it back down to normal and even comfort, everything softens up and it tends to feel a little bit more like a traditional American car out there. So if you're looking for a cruiser, it's got that ride characteristic you're probably looking for. I will point out though, driving around town, speed bumps, manhole covers, it does get a little bit harsh. And that's part and parcel to these large wheels with a low profile tires. They do tend to be a little bit harsh when you do hit sharp bumps and things like that. The other thing I've noticed is under full power, if you're going over bumps or any potholes at the same time, everything really starts coming apart in the way of refinement with this chassis. It loses its composure pretty easily. So if you're just cruising, you're good, but if you really start driving this with any level of verve, it starts getting a few rough edges. So all in, this is a chassis that I give 4 out of 5 stars. From behind the wheel, the interior and cabin design of the Crown is pretty much what you'd expect from contemporary Toyota. Switchgear is of reasonably high quality. Plenty of features and digital goodness surrounds. In the Platinum, we have a lot of equipment here that is standard. Leather seats, both heated and ventilated up front. Leather seats heated in the rear. A leather heated steering wheel. But as I look around, the general design of this, I do find a little bit uninspired, if I'm honest. It's all black. Now, in fairness, you can get this in some contrasting color combinations, but as I look at this, I'm just thinking it doesn't feel as premium as its price and its position in the lineup might suggest. And the way the dash and the instrument cluster is designed, it just doesn't look like there's design here. And maybe I've been watching way too much Fashion Runway in my life, but I really just kind of expect more for the most premium model in the Toyota lineup when it comes to how it's laid out and how it's thought out. Now, is it comfortable? Yes. These seats are very comfortable. There are memory settings for the driver's seat. And of course, you do have a power seat for the passenger. There is a little bit of color accent going on, a bit of a bronze piping on the seats with some white accent stitching, and there is some bronze accents on the dash, but that's about it. As I sit here, the steering wheel does have paddle shifters, and we talked about those. Ahead of me is a 12.3-inch instrument cluster, completely digital, and it's actually quite customizable. You can have round dials, no round dials, and you can completely customize the information sets and where they're at on the screen, so you can really set it up the way you want it. Over here, a 12.3-inch screen for the infotainment screen, which we'll talk about in a minute. Down below that, a bank of hard controls for the HVAC and seat controls. And then the center console, there is a nice big slot down here for your phone. It's got a charger. My phone even fits there with its case, which is rather unusual. And I do like that you can actually see the face of the phone. So if it happens to light up with some kind of a notification, a quick glance can let you know what's going on. Off to the side, cup holders down low, so you can have big, tall gas station cups here, not going to be in your way. USB ports on the side. And then the electronic Toyota sort of corporate shift selector, and very similar to what you might find in any other Toyota of recent memory, drive mode selector behind that. And then the center console. Now, this is kind of cool. It opens both directions. We first saw that in Lexus. Down inside, a pretty good size in storage too, about the size of a rectangular tissue box, maybe 2 of them stacked on top of there, or maybe 2 squares in there. And there's a little tray in there that's removable as well. Above me, aforementioned, the panoramic roof, but it doesn't have an opening front section. Most of them in this category of price do. It is a fixed glass, but it does have a shade that you can close. So if you don't want that light and heat coming through, you can do that. Just like the last time I tested a Toyota Crown, you can see that the rear seat space actually has a lot of room. I'm about 5'8", 5'9", depending on the shoes I wear. These seats are set for my height, and as you can see, I've got plenty of space ahead of me, about 5 to 6 inches of knee room. So you could have a pretty tall person sitting here and I'd be fine. The thing I complained about last time I tested one of these, and really the same complaint I have right now, is that the seating position is very much low like a sedan, which is surprising to me because looking at it, it does sit up pretty high. The hybrid battery is actually located under the seat, so it is higher than you'd expect it in a sedan. However, because of the shape of the seat, you do sit down in it. You do feel like, in this case, you can see that my knees are perched up. I just feel like I'm scrunched down in it. Even though I've got plenty of room above my head, they could have made this just a little bit taller for perhaps a more natural seating position. The good news is I do have plenty of amenities back here. Vents on the back of the console, you expect that. USB ports, but at this price tag, I don't have shades back here. Many of the competitors do offer that when we start getting up over $50,000. There is, however, a nice fold-down armrest with cup holders. And these seats, of course, do fold down in a 60-40 split to allow you to put long items in through the trunk. And what's really cool is there are some little tabs back there in the back that allow you to put these seats down quite easily from the trunk space. And look at that trunk. Nice big trunk. Underneath that floor is a temporary spare. Nice bonus. And the 12-volt battery is also back there in the trunk area behind a cover. Overall, this is an interior that I do find very comfortable. There's plenty of storage, but as I mentioned, I just find the design a bit of a letdown for the flagship of the sedan line for Toyota. And Toyota's done some very nice interiors. This one just seems like they just kind of threw it together with some corporate parts and nobody really gave it any thought. It just seems austere. And when it comes to materials, there are some soft trims here and there, but there's also quite a few hard plastics as I move around. And for $55,000, my eye just expects a little bit more. And there are a few features missing at this price. The opening section on the moonroof. There's no HUD. Now granted, I don't really care if there's a HUD or not, but most vehicles in this price range in this category do have a head-up display among other things. This interior gets 4 out of 5 stars. The infotainment system here is the latest generation of Toyota's connected services system. It has JBL audio, 11 speakers. It is top of the line for the Toyota Crown. It has Google backend, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, AM, FM, satellite radio. It does have the connected services that I referenced. You can say, hey Toyota, is it going to rain today?
There is no precipitation forecast for Phoenix, Arizona on Friday.
And then it shows me a nice weather forecast. And you can ask it just about any question that's available if you search Google within reason, but you can also use it for voice activated commands that have to do with the car. And so it's a really nice, cool thing. But I will point out a lot of this stuff is subscription based. So a lot of the feature content that I just rattled off, it has a monthly payment associated with it or an annual payment, which kind of turns me off, especially in this price range. The audio quality from the JBL system is average, I'd say. JBL, as much as Toyota touts, it just really isn't all that great. Bose and some of the systems, Harman Kardon, you find in other brands tends to have a much better sound. Backup camera, this has a 360-degree view monitor, which works very well forward and back. But using the menus does take a little bit of a learning curve. It's not as intuitive and easy to just blast through as some of the other brands out there. Hyundai and Kia tend to be really good, as an example, and even Ford in many circumstances. But once you get used to it, it does have a lot of back-end settings and ways to customize it and set it up the way you want it. All in, this is a system that gets 4 out of 5 stars. All right, so the last part of the conversation is value and competitiveness. Is it worth the money? Well, let me tell you, the first thing I think of when I hear $55,000 is, darn, I might be able to go get a Lexus, right? I might be able to step up into some of the luxury brands and maybe get a little bit more. Not that there isn't a lot here, but when we start getting up into those highest prices, that's where my mind goes. But that said, just looking at this car, the first thing really that has to be said is the fact that this is a unicorn. There are not very many full-size sedans on the market at all anymore. And most people have just really sort of looked at SUVs and crossovers as that's where it's at, but some people still want a traditional sedan, and this is one of the very few choices, and it's all hybrid all of the time, and that makes it even more of a unique vehicle in the market. So it's very hard to compare this apples to apples with very much out there, but let me give you my best try on is it worth the money in some of the metrics that I look at. $55,000. It's missing a few things, few features inside that a lot of competitors out there from other brands do offer. They come standard, and we talked about some of those things on the test drive. Quality. Now, it's Toyota quality. You can bank on that, right? It's probably going to last forever, but you slam the trunk, you slam the doors, it still has that kind of tinny sound to it that just makes me go, really? Couldn't they put some sound deadening or do something? I mean, it wouldn't cost very much money, but that's been Toyota for decades. It's just what it is. The other thing I'd point out is hybrid and power. If you want the extra power of this engine, it does come at the price of fuel economy. So really, when I look at value, I'm looking at all of these things. And lastly, warranty. Not the longest warranty in the business out there. Hyundai, Kia, Genesis, they all offer longer warranty coverage by a long shot. So that figures into value, which I put at 4 out of 5 stars. When you put that in with everything we've already talked about, we're at 4 out of 5 stars for the review. Not bad at all. So there you have it, our review of the 2024 Toyota Crown Platinum. And if you want to see a little bit lower grade limited, although still pretty high grade, you can see that on our YouTube channel. You can see our latest video right there. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel right down there. Either way, stay tuned.